Right here. You know, I wake up to this. The Drive's best performance car of 2022 is the Chevy Corvette Z06. It says this isn't a supercar killer, it's a full-blown supercar. Its competition can't touch it simply because of its price, and in terms of quality, there's no asterisk anymore. This is a very interesting thing, and let's talk about that for a second. Let's go over here for a minute and discuss this Z06 thing, because you guys know I love cars, right? Obviously, big collector of cars. Follow me over here, out here. We're going to talk about this for a moment. You know, one of the issues with dealing with what you consider to be the exotic car versus the supercar thing is that there's a significant difference. We're going to go here because there's a lot of noise in my office. They're doing some construction today. We're expanding my man cave, if you don't know, which is going to be pretty interesting and exciting. But one of the things I was going to say to you guys is that, you know, we look at exotic cars, we look at all these things, right? And we ask ourselves and we go, okay, so we have all of these cool cars. We can get much better cars in terms of, we can get much better cars when it comes to like the dollar for the value of what we're getting when we're buying ulterior brands. Like we can buy a Hyundai, we can buy like a Kia, that's the luxury version of the Rolls-Royce, etc. And it gives us more value, right? This is the part that like a lot of times people confuse with what I try to teach people. There's a real value in what you're buying, and there's also what it does for you. So a lot of these manufacturers attempt to appeal to getting these people who can't afford these cars by creating something that can mimic its experience and make it seem like it is just as good because it gives them that feeling. What that does is it embodies the ego into basically making you believe that you fit in, and that's the problem. The problem with these Kias, these Genesis, these cars that are basically better versions of these more expensive cars because of their value, is that they provide you what I call a fake version or a fake feel to what it's like to own something of real value. And so, you know, when I diss the Z06 Corvette, the regular Corvette, etc., people misunderstand that I'm attacking it for its performance, or I'm saying that it's not as good as a McLaren and this and that. And the reality is, this is where that comes from, and you have to understand this. This is why I cannot agree to these stupidities that you know, when the Civic Type R is the car of the year for Car and Drive or whatever, Motor Trend, and things like the Z06 make it on the list. So first off, just understand, all of these contests are rigged by individuals who pay money to promote their cars in that regard. So all of these so-called press things in the media have been bought by Chevy or by Honda to basically name their cars the best, right? Secondly, when you compare value, of course you can't compare a $20,000 car, a $100,000 car to a $400,000 car. You could say there are comparative things about them that makes one just as fast or just as cool, but they're not the same. They're just not the same. But here's what I want you to understand. When I want you to rise up to a McLaren, it's not because the McLaren is better. I would argue that actually the McLaren probably breaks down more. It's probably not as reliable. Performance-wise, probably not even necessarily as good all the time, etc. But it doesn't matter. What it does is you're gaining an experience that can't be mimicked by anything that pretends to be like it. And so I want you to rise up and get to that level, because at that level, you can then make a choice if you really want a Corvette or not. But if you're at the Corvette level, and you want a McLaren you can't afford, then that choice was never in your hands. And one of the things you have to understand about this is that no matter what you do, you come from a place where you have a Corvette and you say it's better than everything I can't afford. And that's the problem, is that you can't afford it, so therefore you can't have an opinion about it. But if you were vice versa and you had a McLaren and decided to buy a Corvette, which I will tell you, probably will never happen. Nobody with a premium 765 LT will ever go back to a Corvette. There are reasons for that, because once they've experienced that, they can't. It's no different than going and having Wagyu steak at a five-star restaurant and then going to Outback and looking for that steak for $39 and saying, I don't know why, it tastes like plastic. It doesn't matter. The point is, the guy at Outback who hasn't had the Wagyu steak, he 100% will say, why would I want to spend $200 on Wagyu steak when I can have this $50 Outback? That makes sense. But the guy who's had Wagyu steak will say, I will never go spend $50 at Outback because it won't be the same as this $200 steak. And what I'm trying to tell you is that that's how experience works. You rise to match it. And so when you settle for lesser experience, and a manufacturer has figured out that you're too lazy to get there, and so they have basically created something to amplify your ego rather than help you rise to a higher level, it creates, in my opinion, a terrible, terrible landscape in the middle where it basically prevents people from finding even more progress in their life, and instead gives them a sense of pleasure too early on in their life, persuading them that they don't need to rise past it. So this is the problem with mid-level cars and manufacturers attempting to outdo higher level cars when they really don't need to from a dollar standpoint or not. So the Z06 is a great performance car, we noticed. To me, it's absolutely butt ugly. I've seen two of them. I think they're hideously ugly. They're unproportionate. The new Corvette just doesn't do it design-wise. But drive-wise, I'm sure it's great. I'm sure it's fantastic. It goes really fast around a turn, etc. But at the end of the day, don't forget, there's a reason why no Ferrari, McLaren, or Lamborghini owners will ever turn back and say, I'm giving up all this stuff for a Corvette. But eventually, every Corvette owner carries on to something bigger and better if they make it. There's a reason people don't go backwards. And if you don't know what that reason is because you haven't made it to the top yet. So make your way to the top and then decide for yourself. So this has been my rant today on Exotic Car Hacks. Hopefully you found that useful and understand a little bit more about that, about why I have such a beef with the Corvette and some of these other cars that just don't do it in sake of, even though performance-wise they're fantastic, or they may put numbers on the asphalt or whatever it is, they're just not doing it from a sense of what it's like to own a real exotic, super, or hypercar. Got it? Get it? Good. Now make sure you like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and remember, if you want to learn how to get in your very own supercar and fast track your way there, all you have to do is click the link in the description and either learn for free or join our community of over 20,000 people who will teach you not only how to get in your supercar, not only how to enjoy and lower your cost of ownership by 80%, but also literally be amongst other individuals just like you who understand you, love exotic cars, and more importantly, want to make good financial, responsible decisions. Click the link. I'll see you inside. See you next time on another video for Exotic Car Hacks.